The house stood at the end of a narrow dirt road, swallowed by leaning trees and choking vines. Its windows were dark, its paint peeled away like old scabs, and the porch sagged as if it were tired of holding itself up. I don't know why I agreed to spend the night there alone. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was pride. Either way, by the time the sun dipped below the trees, I was already regretting it. The front door groaned when I pushed it open, the sound stretching through the hollow interior like a warning. The air inside was thick with dust and something else, something damp and sour, like rotting wood and forgotten memories. My flashlight cut a pale tunnel through the darkness, illuminating floating specks that drifted like ash. The living room furniture was still there, covered in white sheets that hung like silent figures. A grandfather clock stood against the far wall, its pendulum frozen mid-swing. I checked my phone. No signal. The battery was at 63%. More than enough, I told myself. I chose a small upstairs bedroom to settle in, mostly because it had only one window and one door. Fewer directions for something to come from. The floorboards creaked with every step, the sound sharp in the otherwise suffocating silence. When I placed my bag on the bed, a cloud of dust puffed into the beam of my flashlight, making me cough. At first, the night was quiet, too quiet. Around midnight, I heard the first sound, a soft thud. It came from downstairs. I froze, holding my breath, straining to listen. The house responded with silence. Old houses make noises, I told myself. Wood contracts, pipes shift. It's normal. Then came another sound, a slow, deliberate creak. Not random, not settling. A footstep. It was faint, but unmistakable. The boards below groaned under weight that wasn't mine. My chest tightened. I sat up in bed, every muscle locked. I waited for another sound, hoping I had imagined it. Instead, I heard it again, another step, then another, moving across the living room floor. I grabbed my flashlight, my hands trembling so badly, the beam shook across the walls. I told myself to go check. If it was an animal, I needed to know. If it was a person, I needed to leave. I stepped into the hallway. The darkness there felt thicker than before, pressing against me. The air had grown colder, unnaturally cold, raising goosebumps along my arms. As I reached the top of the stairs, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The grandfather clock downstairs was moving. Its pendulum swung lazily from side to side. Tick-tock, tick-tock. I was certain it hadn't been working before. The sound filled the house now, each tick loud and heavy, like a heartbeat echoing through hollow ribs. I swallowed hard and forced myself to descend the stairs. Each step groaned beneath my weight, announcing my presence. Halfway down, the ticking stopped, mid-swing. Silence. The beam of my flashlight swept across the living room. The sheets covering the furniture were no longer still. They shifted. Not from wind. The windows were closed. No breeze stirred. The fabric rose and fell slightly, as if something underneath was breathing. My pulse roared in my ears. Slowly, against every instinct, screaming at me to run, I stepped closer to the nearest shape. The sheet draped over what I thought was a couch. It moved again, a slow rise, a slow fall. I reached out and yanked the sheet away. Nothing, just a decaying couch. I stumbled backward, heart pounding, breath ragged. The other covered shapes were still now. Perfectly still. Then I heard it. Behind me, a whisper. So faint I almost convinced myself it was the house settling again. But it formed words. You shouldn't be. Here the voice was right next to my ear. I spun around, flashlight beam cutting wildly through the darkness. No one. The room was empty, but the air felt different now, heavy charged, like before a storm. Suddenly, the front door slammed shut. The sound exploded through the house, shaking dust from the ceiling. I hadn't touched the door. I knew I hadn't. My flashlight flickered. Once, twice. Then it went out. Total darkness swallowed me whole. I fumbled with the switch, shaking it desperately. Nothing. My breathing grew shallow and fast. I could hear it now, movement all around me. Soft shuffling. The faint scrape of something dragging across the floor, circling me. I backed up until my shoulders hit the wall. My hands searched blindly for anything solid, anything to defend myself with. The whisper returned, this time from everywhere. You stayed. The temperature plummeted. I could see my breath in the dark, pale and trembling. Something brushed against my hand, cold, wet, and unmistakably like fingers. I screamed and lunged forward, crashing into furniture, stumbling toward where I thought the stairs were. My shin struck wood, and I nearly fell, but adrenaline pushed me upward, step by step, guided only by memory. Behind me, the footsteps followed, slow, measured, never rushing, as if they knew I couldn't escape. I reached the bedroom and slammed the door shut, throwing my weight against it. The handle rattled immediately, not violently, just gently, testing it back and forth, back and forth. The whispers seeped through the wood. This is our house. The bed behind me creaked. I wasn't alone in the room. The smell hit me first, deep, earthy rot, like freshly turned soil from a grave. My heart pounded so hard I thought I would pass out. I turned slowly. At the foot of the bed stood a shape darker than the darkness around it. It wasn't solid. It shifted, stretching too tall, too thin, bending at unnatural angles. Two pale shapes hovered where eyes should have been. Unglengy. Watching the door behind me stopped rattling, because whatever had been outside was now inside. The shadow tilted its head, and in a voice that sounded like splintering wood and rusted hinges, it whispered, "You can't leave." The last thing I remember was the feeling of icy hands wrapping around my throat, not squeezing, just resting there, claiming me. My vision blurred, and the darkness grew deeper than the room itself. When morning came, the house stood quiet again. The door was open. The grandfather clock was frozen. The sheets lay undisturbed, and no one would ever know I had spent the night there, except the house.